This is Dr. Tiffany Lamond from Lamond Wellness, and today I'm going to talk about my pantry. A lot of my patients ask me questions about what I actually eat, and I'm going to sort of take the veil away, and the good, the bad, and the ugly is all going to be in here. And I'll give you some ideas of, what I do and what my family and I do. But just a quick disclosure, this is for educational entertainment purposes only, and this is not to substitute for appropriate medical advice for your individual circumstance. So in my house, we have a couple of dietary restrictions. My son and I cannot eat gluten. He's allergic to almonds and walnuts, and I'm allergic to pork. So that influences a little bit of what we have in our house. But I want to give you an idea today, sort of going through my pantry. What do we eat and why? And, some of my opinions about what I think are great products and some that are not so great. So I'm going to start at the top and sort of work my way around. On this side, starting at the top, we have a lot of our pastas and rices and stuff. So like, for example, this is a rice noodle. I make pad thai and stuff like that. This is not one that I buy often. It was on special. This one right here is actually a really good example of a super high protein pasta. This is made with chickpeas. So just as a little idea for pastas with more protein, this one has 19 grams of protein per serving, which is 1 cup. That, and the only thing that's in it, nothing else, is chickpeas. There's no salt, there's no nothing. This is pretty cool. Also, this is like a temporary thing at Aldi. I wish they carried this all the time. You have rice here. My personal preference is brown rice, but my son really prefers white rice. And so here's the thing. In life, you have to make compromises. You have to just, figure out what works for you and your family, and it's not always going to be exactly the same. So this is my compromise. I still have brown rice in here. I make it sometimes regardless, but it's down here. This is a gluten-free pasta. I personally like, this is also from Aldi. It's from their gluten-free line, Live G Free. I like that one. I like this penne one more than the spiral. I think the spiral one gets more mushy. Little thing for you guys to know, if you do eat gluten-free pasta, it is a very persnickety food. It goes from hard to mushy in like 2 minutes. So you have to really watch it. And another way to make it, a better consistency is once it's done cooking, rinse it with cool water in your strainer. And that will keep it from getting really mushy. But the tricky thing is if you want it in a hot dish, that's sort of annoying to cool it all off. But cooking gluten-free pasta is tricky anyway. All right, so here we have, these are some blue corn tortilla chips. They're gluten-free, organic. You'll notice there's a theme. We eat a lot of organic stuff. But this, of course, is the pantry, so this is all the shelf-stable stuff. I like the blue corn. Then over here we have, this is like a treat in our house. We have these gluten-free pretzels. My son really likes these. He eats them with hummus. Don't misunderstand. Gluten-free does not necessarily mean more healthy. We have an actual dietary restriction, but just because it's gluten-free pretzels, it's still junk food. So it's something that we avoid. And if you come over here, this over here is kind of a section of the supplements that we use, but not often, which is why these last so long. But for example, this is a protein powder that we use. I really like this one. This is a plant-based one. Garden of Life, this is their sport line. It's in the silver containers. You can get these at like Sprouts and Whole Foods and places like that. I really like the profile of the plant-based protein. So the tricky part about plant-based proteins is that it's difficult to get a good variety of the amino acids that you need to be a whole protein source. So what they do here is they use all sorts of different. Pea protein has pretty decent research. You see that a lot now in vegan protein. This also has navy bean, sprouted lentil bean, garbanzo bean, cranberry protein, and then it's got some stevia in it. I actually wish this didn't have stevia in it. I wish it was unsweetened so that I could decide if I wanted it sweetened or not. It would be better to add to other things if it wasn't sweetened with stevia. Garden of Life tip for you, make this unsweetened and I will be more likely to use it more often. But, and then there's a whole recovery blend, there's acai and stuff like that. But I really like this one. This is one of my top choices. You'll also notice in the back there's a M100 Elite. It's a liquid multivitamin mineral supplement. We eat vegan a lot, and so one of the things that I do make sure that we do is that we probably take this supplement maybe every other day, and I mix it. It's a liquid. I like liquids because there's argument to be had that they're more bioavailable because it's very difficult for your body to break down a tablet. Capsules are a little bit better, but tablets are pretty hard. So we use a liquid when we do it. And we can have a whole nother video about supplements and things like that. But for our purposes in our family, one of the things that's really important to us is that we have a B12 supplement. There's other things that are important, like I'm a redhead, I'm very fair, a little bit low in vitamin D. Vitamin D is a supplement that I really make sure we have. And then over here, these are actually given to me by a friend of mine who works for the LPGA. Got some collagen with turmeric. We have some medium chain triglyceride oil. These are all Garden of Life products. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, and I'll include a link from Amazon. It's probably an affiliate link. I'd probably make a teeny bit of money if you use the link, but ultimately, these are just the products we use. So now moving down, this is kind of my shelf of dried goods, if you will. And I have them in these mason jars, mostly because I think it looks nice, but ultimately it's easy for me to see them. And I use this, it's like a chalk pen, and I write the ingredients on, I don't write it on all of them, but the ones that I either could get confused or I'm not sure what it could be, I use that. So I'm going to take you through a couple of the things that are really consistently in our pantry. Some of these come and go, different trail mixes, different types of nuts we rotate through. So there might be cashews or peanuts or macadamia nuts or pecans, etc. We rotate through those. But in general, there's a few things in here that we consistently have. So like, for example, back here, this is black beans. These are pinto beans. There's lima beans back here. There's brown rice over here. There's nutritional yeast. In vegan cooking, it kind of gives like a cheesy type taste to some stuff. My family doesn't even know that I use it, so don't tell them, because they probably will think it was not that great. This is flax meal, chia seeds. There's a video that I will be bringing out, or that I brought out, about making smoothie bowls. We use a lot of these on that. I have hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are really, I use those a lot. There's dates in here, and dates are great for adding sweetness to things like that you wouldn't want to add sugar to. And you'll notice that I don't really have regular sugar. There's figs back here. One thing I have here that I just haven't used, and I don't know why, is this wild rice. I need to use that. Cacao powder, that's always in our pantry. Oh, one of my friends in Patience, he made us some dried pears. This is not something I normally have, but it's a nice change. As far as gluten-free flours are concerned, I do have coconut flour. I have a starch at any given time, so it could be, and I use that a lot on tofu to make it crispy, or on, if we eat chicken, to make it crispy. So like cornstarch, arrowroot starch, tapioca starch, they all work. They're all very similar. Use the one that you like. And then over here, I have moringa powder. Moringa is like a superfood. The tricky thing about it is a pretty strong flavor, and it's really green. So you have to be kind of cautious about what you add it to in terms of cosmesis and in terms of the aesthetics of it, but it's really, really good for you. I also have over here, let's see, there's salt and baking soda, general pantry staples. Now, if we go down to the next one, this is about as extensive as I get for sweeteners. So I have maple syrup. I have a jar of honey from like a local bee farmer. And then I do have some of these from Costco. These are just organic raw honey. My preference is to use a raw honey that's local, but in a pinch, these will work. Cacao nibs. A little thing is, my husband he hates it when I use these because he says that they're not sweet enough, but I sneak him into things all the time and he doesn't know it. But we also have regular chocolate chips. That's one of the things that we indulge in, is we have some chocolate chips. Here we have peanut butter. Now, honestly, I'd love to eat more things like almond butter, but my son's allergic to almonds, so we eat peanut butter. I really like cashew butter. That we don't have as often, but cashew butter is really, really good if you've never tried it. This is actually just extra flax meal and coconut flour. These are our peanuts. These are cashews. Now, we actually have raw cashews here, and we have roasted cashews here. We usually use these more for snacking, and these are more in like baking type things. We have apricots. I make my own granola bars, which maybe I'll do a video on that and show you guys how I do that. But oftentimes I use chopped up apricots in it. They're really delicious. We have corn and flour tortillas. My husband can eat flour, but my son and I cannot, so we have both. These are rice papers that we use to make to make spring rolls. So, and then over here, I don't have much right now. I normally have a really decent selection of tea, but in this whole quarantine thing, I've used it all up. So all I have is black tea, and I never ever drink black tea because I can't handle caffeine. So this is just kind of sitting here. And green tea has a little bit of caffeine, but still it's enough for me to be like, it could make me sort of jittery. So this is regular coffee. I never drink regular coffee. There's a joke in my friends and family that I would probably go into orbit if I had coffee, but I do have some decaffeinated coffee. Now be aware that that is not completely caffeine free, and I grind it here. I might do a video on how I do that because I just use a Vitamix. It's not very precise. I'm sure the coffee connoisseurs are gonna like get all over me and tell me that I'm doing it wrong, but this is the coffee that I like to use. It's organic, it's ethically harvested. It's decaf, it's Swiss water decaffeinated, which is important to me because I don't want to use a chemical process to decaffeinate it. But these are the whole beans. My husband's bread, whole wheat bread. Zane and I don't eat that. And then oats. We actually use a fair amount of oats to make oatmeal, or I use it in flours and things like that. So this is our container of oats. For those of you who are gluten-free, if you're gluten-free and celiac, you definitely need to have certified gluten-free oats. If you're gluten-free and it's more of a sensitivity or a dietary choice of yours, you might be able to get away with oats, regular oats. They are a naturally gluten-free grain. However, they're often cross-contaminated because they're often processed in the same facility. So it really depends on how sensitive you are, but that's something that you should be aware of. These are our vinegars. So we have, actually, this is a really nice place. These are plugs for these people. Hopefully benefit. Blue Ridge Olive Oil Company. There's a bunch of places like this where you can go and you can try all these different vinegars and olive oils. This one's a white balsamic vinegar that is orange vanilla. So we make a lot of our salad dressings and stuff from these. These are delicious. We have a couple different olive oils too. We have one that's a butter, and I guess the butter flavor comes from a mushroom that's infused with it. I have no idea how that works, but it's yummy. We have another herb one. This is avocado oil. I use a lot of avocado oil in my cooking because one, it doesn't have a strong flavor, and two, it has a higher smoke point than olive oil does, so it's less likely to smoke. Here is sesame oil. Sesame oil is really good in a lot of Asian cooking. I have actually two different kinds of that. Tahini, I use this when I make hummus. I make hummus a lot. My son really likes hummus. Coconut oil. Again, a lot of these come from Aldi in their organic line. I'm sort of making a plug here for Aldi too. I really like that store. I probably could make a whole video on that. This is some homemade jams and jellies, and then this is another one, an organic one from Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's has pretty good organic jellies. I try as much as possible to find ones without added sugar, and if they are added, that it's preferably not corn syrup. This one is one of those. We eat a fair amount of these organic diced tomatoes, and then these, weirdly enough, normally these are the fire roasted ones, and I think I must have just picked up the wrong can because it's just diced tomatoes, but I like the fire roasted ones a lot. We have a couple of jars of marinara sauce. Those have been in there a while. And then this is funny. I have these canned green beans, and they've been sitting here for probably 2 months and we haven't eaten them. This was one of those moments when I'm in the grocery store and it's pandemic and everybody in the world is buying all these canned goods. And I was like, well, I should probably get some canned veggies. So I bought some canned green beans. But since we haven't really had a problem getting produce, they're just sitting there. And they probably will continue to sit there, because I'm not really a big fan of canned green beans that much. Anyway, over here we have two different kinds of pesto. These both have a dairy in them. You can make your own pesto if you're dairy free or nut free, etc. But these are really good. And I don't know if you know how much basil you have to grow in order to make a thing of pesto. It's a lot. I used to grow it myself, and I'd get to make like one thing of pesto the whole season. But if you're that person that has this awesome basil garden, yippee, go ahead and make your own pesto. That's awesome. I'm a huge fan of you making anything yourself, because pretty much if you're going to make it yourself, it's going to be healthier than if you bought it at the store, and certainly healthier than if you get it at a restaurant. That's a good little tip for you guys. Restaurants are in the business of making money. So patients are always asking me questions about how can I go to a restaurant and eat healthier foods? But here's the bottom line. They want you to desire their food more than your own food, whether it's more convenient, it tastes better, etc. So they're always going to add things to it, whether it's salt, fat, etc., to make it taste better. So like a steak, it's often dipped in a butter sauce before it's plated. because butter makes everything taste better, but you wouldn't normally do that at home. So the steak you would make at home would automatically probably be healthier than if you were to eat it out, and considerably cheaper financially. We're almost done. Coconut cream. I use coconut cream a lot. So coconut milk and coconut cream, but coconut cream in particular, I make a homemade whipped cream out of it, non-dairy. Again, we try to eat vegan or plant-based most of the time, and we did a whole experiment for at least 3 months where at home we only ate plant-based, and we're probably, I would say at this point we eat more than half of our meals are plant-based, and we intermingle some stuff, but we definitely don't eat a ton of meat, but we're not vegan or vegetarian all of the time. And I think a lot of people get caught up in labeling themselves, I am this, and that's fine. If you have ethical reasons or dietary restrictions, or you feel better eating a certain way, go for it. If it works for you, it works for me. However, I am not super keen on labeling us as one way. We're not plant-based all the time. We don't, the things that we do sort of discriminate against are the things that we're actually allergic to or that make us really, really sick. Okay, moving on. We have a couple of cans of tuna here. Again, this was like a pandemic purchase. I bought these, but we did eat the other ones. So, or somebody did. It wasn't, I think I only ate one. It must be my son eating tuna, because this is convenient when he's at home schooling. Some refried beans and some organic pureed pumpkin, which I use a lot in pumpkin pancakes, pumpkin waffles, pumpkin bread. That's mostly it. I can probably at some point make some recipes of those. I think you guys would enjoy those. So that is a pantry tour of my house. And this is a pretty decent representation of what you would typically find in my pantry. And whenever you put yourself out there like that, I'm sure people are going to be critical and they're going to say, oh, you don't have this, you need to have that. I would say, keep most of those comments to yourself. That's not helpful for anybody, but also just to give you ideas. And nobody needs to be perfect 100% of the time. If you are eating healthy and well and fueling your body most of the time and you're indulging only occasionally, great. One of the challenges with my patients is that is not generally the case. They really, really struggle with the frequency in which they eat out, the frequency in which they eat refined and processed foods. So much so that the American culture, we've started to greenwash things that are super unhealthy into making them seem like they're healthy, or it's a health food, where it's a protein bar that's really just masquerading as a candy bar. So keep that sort of stuff in mind. But if I were to kind of quickly go through and say some of the things that we always have, I would say we always have the gluten-free pasta, rice, and oats as our grains. We always have maple syrup and honey. We always have chocolate chips. We definitely always have chocolate chips. We always have some sort of beans. The variety of them changes. We always have some sort of seeds and nuts, and the variety of those change as well. We have a variety of oils, whether that's sesame, coconut, olive, or avocado. We have a variety of those. We rotate through in terms of these type of staples. We don't have a lot of canned goods in our house. This is probably more than we typically would have. And my son really likes tortilla chips. We probably always have at least a bag of tortilla chips or pretzels or something like that, because that's something he really enjoys. And that's probably the consistencies of what we always have in our pantry. So I hope you guys find this helpful. If you have questions or comments, feel free to put them down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you find this helpful. I hope that this gives you some ideas for your own life and, brings you one step closer to health and wellness.